Hey, everybody, this is Josh with the Dirt Court Jesters podcast. Awesome to be joined by Luke Griffith, driver of the number 11G sprint car from Sandusky, Ohio. Luke, thanks for hopping on.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I want to start out with saying you don't like half miles?
I'm going to have to own up to that because I catch a lot of flack for it on the internet because it's a pretty bold take, but I should say I like watching the racing at half miles, but yours truly here is more of what I call a short track specialist. I don't really thrive at the half miles too much. Maybe it's because I don't have enough horsepower. Maybe it's because I don't have enough between the seat. But they're not my favorite, so to speak. But tip of the cap to the guys who can do it fast and do it the right way. I'm just not one of those guys usually.
Adam Crew told me one time that if you're going to run up top on a half mile, you better have a big bank account and some big balls.
That might be the most spot-on statement I've ever heard. Or if you don't have the big bank account, you just don't care and you're there letting it all hang out.
So let's start out with, how did you get into racing?
So my grandfather started an engine shop in Sandusky, Griffith Engines, back, I couldn't tell you what year. And when he retired, my uncle took it over. My uncle actually raced super modifieds, a little bit of non-wing sprint car stuff, a little bit of early wing sprint car stuff, like I'm talking plywood wings and stuff like that. And then a little bit of transition into more modern stuff. He ended up, I think he stopped racing competitively like late 90s, early 2000s when he was running supers around here. And my dad kind of helped him, didn't really take over ownership of the engine shop, but he got my brother and I into it. I started racing go-karts when I was 4 and just kind of worked my way up from there, mini karts, and then I think we run some 4-cycle restricted stuff, and then we run a lot of Yamaha 2-stroke stuff kind of in this Fremont part of the world. We traveled a little bit, but by that point my brother was racing sprint cars, so we were kind of limited. And then I started in 305s. I ran 4 or 5 shows around 2013 just so I could be eligible for Rookie of the Year the following year. In 2014, that would have been my full first season. And we raced 305s for a while at the Fremont Attica scene, the occasional Waynesfield appearance, wherever else, Mansfield, when we were able to travel. We raced a little bit with the 360s when we could, and then in 2022, we moved to full-time 360 racing with, at that time, the NRA, and then in 2023, the GLSS and NRA merged together. So in 2023, we raced pretty much all NRA stuff with a few miscellaneous stuff sprinkled in. And then last year, I was fortunate enough to be able to run 410s for Phil Capodice in the 12 car for most of the year. And then we mixed a little bit of our 360 stuff in when possible. And then this year, we're back to doing 360 stuff again.
So I read somewhere that Waynesfield is your favorite track. I think it was your bio on my race pass, if I'm not mistaken. Is that still true, and what makes it your favorite track?
So I might have to update the My Race Pass, I won't lie. Now, no shade at Waynesfield. With Rich and Shelley Farmer taking it over, I'm sure it's going to be dynamite. It still holds near and dear to my heart. But I'll tell you what, there's nothing like running the wall at Jacksonville, Illinois. We were fortunate enough to go there last year. We raced a 3-race weekend in Illinois and Iowa with the Sprint Invaders. And we raced Jacksonville on Friday. We raced 34 in Burlington, Iowa Saturday. And then we raced East Moline, Illinois, kind of an oddball that they hadn't raced in a while, on Sunday. Those two are short track. 34 is kind of a big place. And Jacksonville took rubber about 6 inches off the fence with about 10 to go, and that was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life, and I didn't even care that I was racing in the rubber at that point.
So Jacksonville, Illinois is your track of choice now?
I'm probably going to have to roll with Jacksonville. I put Waynesfield at a close second, and then highly underrated gem of the Midwest, Spoon River, Illinois, has got to be third.
Okay, nice. Well, I like you giving me all three. I can't say I've been to 2 of the 3. I've been to Waynesfield multiple times, and it's a cool track. The open area from 1 to 2 in the backstretch, I think, is neat, but I am not a fan of the wall starting in turn 3. That just I've had conversations with many of people about that. And I've seen a couple people drill it, including Jerry Bowersock, and I wish there was something you could do about that.
Yeah, I won't lie, it kind of scares my girlfriend to death, but man, when you run the top at Waynesfield, it's kind of like when you referenced Adam Crui's quote from earlier. You can't care. You're just there to go fast. I won't lie to you, last year I was fortunate enough to be able to run a fast show there in Phil Capodice's 410 car, and we got lucky. We got to start on the front row because someone jumped the start, and I got out front, run the top at both ends the whole heat race. Felt like I was 3 inches from death for 8 laps. And came in and everybody told me how comfortable I looked. And I'll tell you right now, I've never felt more uncomfortable in my life, but it was fast. So.
That's the quickest way around, right?
Right.
Well, you kind of touched on it. So you ran 410s and 360s in 2024. And I thought I saw something put out by you. Maybe I've got it mixed up where it seemed like you were going to kind of reel it in a little bit for 2025. And you're running with GLSS this season. Was there something that changed?
We're kind of running more of a limited schedule. Phil, I have nothing but great things to say about Phil and Tyler Capodice and the team that they have, and they all, Kyle included, who'd raced the car for a long time, they welcomed me with open arms. Kyle and I had raced go-karts together for a long time in our youth, and we all knew each other prior, and it was really a great team partnership. And, it's so tough in today's world to fund an operation to be competitive at any racing level, and especially the 410 level. And, Phil's son Tyler was just getting into trying to race the 350 small block super modified division around here. And I didn't feel right trying to play my hand and race against, try to race over top of Tyler. And Phil and I had talked, and, Tyler's his son, and I was more than understanding of him wanting to go racing with Tyler. So, all's well that ends well, no hard feelings at all there. But yeah, I should say dialing it back a little bit. I mean, last year we raced 40 times between the 410 and the 360, by far the most of my limited career. Honestly, I don't know how these outlaw guys race 80 times a night, or 80 times a year rather. Maybe it's a little easier if you don't have a per se full-time job, but still tip of the cap to them, because I don't care if you got a job or not. There's no way that's easy. So we're probably going to race around 15, 20 shows this year, give or take. We've kind of got a rough schedule that we've mulled over, but it's all subject to change. Weather's a huge part of that. So we'll just kind of see where it goes.
You kind of touched on my next question in talking about your schedule for 2025. Is there anything that you're like, I'm for sure going to make this race? Is there any of those on the schedule?
I would say, as much as criticism as Lima catches, it is near and dear to my heart after, recording my only 2 wins ever there.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be at every show at Lima if I can help it. Probably going to be at every Waynesfield show if I can help it, just because I love racing there. I'd really like to get back to Butler, Michigan if I can. Last year I was fortunate enough to get there a couple times in the 410. We had a couple top 5 runs, a second place run. I really enjoy racing there, and I really like what Tim Wilbur and their family has done with the place. For a while, Butler kind of caught a bad rap, and they are doing tons of improvements every year to get it headed in the right direction. Track conditions, facilities, pit area, practically anything you can think of, they're probably working on it right now. So I would say a Butler is a hope. We might try to travel a little bit, not really sure on that. Kind of depends on how the start of the season goes. Hopefully the equipment that's on the car now is the same equipment that's on it come July. But all open to interpretation at that point. So.
Okay. All right. Very nice. You got to get back to Lima. 2 wins there in 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can only claim about 1.5. The second one took rubber, I won't lie. I was lucky. Randy Hannigan showed me the nose on the bottom, and I was up there on the top doing my best Caleb Griffith impression, trying to knock down the fence. And I thought, hey, I should probably go down there. It looks like it's the quicker way around. So snuck one out in the rubber. The first one was definitely the better one of the 2. But hey, you know what? I'll take 2 over none any day of the week.
Definitely. So you're talking about 2025 and some of the races you're going to run with. And before we start recording, you told me that you're going to be running a new paint scheme this season. Let's talk about that.
So, Dad and I had talked, and, I'm not getting any younger. He's not getting any younger. And we know we're not going to do this for forever. And we've pretty much had the same graphic scheme since I started. We've had a few little tweaks here and there. But my guy, Bart Rader over at Banshee Graphics, big time supporter of mine, always has been. And I have nothing but great things to say about Bart and the work that he does. And but without divulging too many details, because I'm sure it'll come out here in the next couple days, I pretty much just told Bart, hey, no blue and yellow mixed together, and if you're going to use one or the other, don't mix them together, but have fun because I trust you. And I'll send you some pictures when we get done here, but man, I think you're going to like what you see. It's pretty cool looking. I've gotten a lot of good reviews from the few people that I have showed, so everybody's known me for so long being the guy with red, white, and blue with a little bit of gray mixed in, but it's definitely different. So Bart's first words to me were, well, I hope you didn't like people recognizing you, because no one's going to recognize you now. So.
Well, I mean, if you know me at all, I'm glad that there will not be blue-yellow combination on the car.
Big time fan of the no blue yellow combo. A lot of people don't know. I'd like to give Bart just a small shout out. Bart actually does the graphics on the Kyle Larson Paul Silva 57 car, and a lot of people don't know that. I was at his shop picking up the car on Friday, and I don't know if it's a replica or if it's the original, but the 2024 Knoxville Nationals Champion Trophy is sitting in his shop at this very moment. So.
You know what? You talk about that, and I know I've seen something about this where I don't know if Knoxville provides additional trophies or the guys that win may get some copies of trophies to give out to some folks, but that's freaking cool to have.
I'm sure I can about guarantee it's a replica. I highly doubt that Kyle would want to part with that, even though he's won 2 of them. But he's got a couple other interesting ones. He's got a King's Royal trophy in the back. To my knowledge, I believe he was the first person to ever print a mainstream cardboard check, and it was for Eldora Speedway. Now, I'm sure the fact checkers will come out and prove me wrong some way or somehow, but that was always the narrative that I was told, was that he was one of the first people to do that, and it kind of took off after that. So,
very cool, very cool. So, you've been racing. Did you start racing in 2013? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it was about late July, early August, because Attica always finishes around in September. So it was late. My first night was at Attica, and I want to say it was like the last weekend of July in 2013. I'd have to go back and look at official results to be sure, but I would say it was right in that time frame.
Well, I know you like you mentioned, you climbed the ranks and spent some times in some different type of race cars, 305s, 360s, 410s. You've been in it long enough. What do you, I'm always curious as to this answer, as to what do you feel, maybe you don't, is there's something different about sprint car racing now, technology-wise, that wasn't there when you started?
I'll be honest with you. The thing I've noticed more than anything, and, not to throw shade at anybody because it's not my goal here, but when we were in 305s first starting out, a lot of guys that I started with, Ricky Peterson, Kyle Capodice, Jordan Ryan, everybody was running used parts. I mean, some stuff you bought new, it just kind of depended on where you were at, where your budget was at, but everybody buys new stuff now. It's just crazy to me. I'm probably running older stuff on my 360 than most of the 305 guys at Fremont and Attica are running. And, kudos to them guys for putting together solid entry cars. I mean, they could take and drop a 360 in that thing, or heck, some of them 305s make good enough horsepower, they could even be competitive with a lower grade 360. That's probably one of the things technology-wise I have noticed more than anything. The shocks have come a long way. Also, since I started, I was pretty much on standard pro shocks at the beginning, kind of like everybody else. And now, if you're not running factory canes, even to a degree adjustable factory canes, you're kind of outdated. And I know some guys run the Super Shocks, the purple brand. I know a lot of guys run AFCOs, Penske's, whatever you're comfortable with. But the gas shocks have become big. The adjustable shocks have become huge. Technology's never going to stop. So if you don't keep up with it, you're going to get left in the dust, unfortunately.
Yeah, very true. And that's a conversation I always have with everybody is like I told you, I'm in my early 40s. I've been going to the track for quite a while, and just how everything's have evolved. I always like to have the conversation of how stock cars are now modifieds, and modifieds are now late models. Like, it's just crazy how much it's changed over the years.
Well, and I know you've spent a lot of time at the Eldora Speedway, kind of like me. My earliest memories of Eldora are going there in the early 2000s, like when Joey Saldana was running the white Hemsaw car, and Jack Haudenschild and others were floating between the Beefpackers car, Steve Kinzer in the iconic Quaker State number 11, and there was a few of those semis that would show up. A lot of guys just had kind of nicer, pickup truck rigs. But man, it seemed like towards the end of the 2000s, early 2010s, that just shot off the charts. Guys started spending more money, and if you got it, I can't fault you. But it's crazy to me to think how much it's changed just from when I was a kid. I'm going to be 30 this December, but from then until now, I can't imagine somebody like my dad who was around when there were places where you couldn't even run a roll cage. Some were bolt-on roll cages. When he was helping my uncle back in the 70s and 80s. So it's just, for me, it'd be wild to see the progress from his side of things, let alone from my side. So,
just thinking about the answer that you gave there, it brought me to another point. I don't know if you feel one way or another about this, but as much as the money has increased, for the most part, on guys putting money into the car, whether it's team drivers or combination, it seems like there are some tracks that are stuck behind. And I know it's a difficult spot to be in because a lot of times they're not making money, but I guess I think of the tracks in terms of safety. Safety is paramount, for everybody, in my opinion, whether you're a fan there or driver, certainly teams, right? And folks that are working at the track. I wonder why, I guess one thing has been able to prosper and the other thing has not.
yeah, that's an interesting point. I think a lot of times, I've never been on the management side of a racetrack or a promotional side, so I can't really speak for their end. I've seen what I've seen from my side, but, that's completely different than what they go through on day-to-day activities. I'd like to give a tip of the cap to Attica Raceway Park. I saw recently this week they installed the Wheeling-style safety lights. I feel like those should be a thing most places. They're far better, brighter, easier to see than the traffic lights that were run for forever. I mean, those were great for the times, but, Lima, Fremont, Eldora, a lot of places have evolved and moved on. It's so hard, I think, for these tracks that are kind of not your mainstream places like your Knoxvilles and your Eldoras, your Port Royals, Williams Groves, big-time places to be able to fund additional facility upgrades all the time. I will give credit, they try their best, but I know you and I have both noticed in-person attendance at racetracks has sharply declined in recent years, and it's concerning to me, not only from a driver's side, but just from a general racing fan. What's going to happen in 10, 15 years? I feel like the younger generation is maybe not quite as interested in racing as older generations were. Now, the tracks, I think, are trying to do their best to incorporate kids into it and get them started early. Like Attica always has a kid come down and say, let's go racing. Kids will remember that for forever. I do think Attica also does the Meet the Drivers Night. Lima does something similar. I think those are paramount for kids because they're going to remember that most of the time. And if you can create a core memory with them early in life, I really do think that it'll help increase attendance later on. Your Eldoras and places like that are never really going to have to worry because a lot of them are just paramount events. They're big time, they're prestige, they live off their name. I get worried about tracks like Waynesfield, Attica. Wayne County does a fantastic job at packing the place every single week, and everyone there stays until the compacts are done at the end of the night. But some places I've been, it definitely is concerning to me, and I think that's what leads a lot of times to the lack of facility upgrades that a lot of us feel should be more of a priority.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I want to make was, it's hard for them because they're trying to get people in the stands, and to do that really now you got to kind of watch what you're charging to get folks in, but at the same time, it costs money to upgrade things. Like that stuff's not free. So, like you pointed out, some of those tracks are in a interesting spot right now in Eldora. You know, to them, it's especially because Eldora's now, like you said, it's really like a big race facility. It's not like it used to be. Um, they don't, they run all the big races for the most part, and they've got their handful of I guess, a couple family nights and things like that. But really, I mean, they're packing the place on the big race weekends, and making up for the rest of the season where some other places just don't have that ability. So it's an interesting spot that where we're in, kind of going back to the original topic, which was how much money is going into cars now, and how I guess it's not, everything is not trickling down. It's only getting, certain spots are able to spend more and make more money.
And unfortunately, we all know this. It's not going to get any cheaper. Once something goes up in price, it never comes down. My only hope is that maybe we can get, as a country as a whole, our economy can get pointed in a little better direction and kind of stabilize things rather than have it keep shooting up the way it's been going. Yeah. It's so hard to field a competitive entry anymore. I don't care if you're racing compacts at Sandusky Speedway or you're racing 410 sprint cars at Knoxville Raceway. It's incredibly challenging to financially put together a plan to be competitive and not run your coffers dry. Guys like Brian Brown have done a terrific job at securing sponsorships and getting partners involved in dirt track racing that you wouldn't normally see at the racetrack. And I feel like to a degree other people have tried to do the same thing, maybe not to as much success, but I think that could be a big key in the future if we're able to get more sponsors in without it losing its grassroots racing element. Everybody looks up to NASCAR as, that benchmark for guys that make it in dirt racing. Your Christopher Bells, your Kyle Larson's, guys move on, and that's ultimately the goal because that's where you're the most financially successful. But for the dirt track racing, grassroots element of it is big, and you don't want to lose that, but at the same time, you have to stay with the times, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's, I think the big series, you could pick sprint cars or late models. It seems like the big series, especially the big names, are really starting to, like, you're making a really good living at this. It's kind of, and then we got the streaming stuff coming on, and I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe they're not making money. Maybe they are. It just seems like it kind of trickles only so far down and then it stops. And like you're saying, it could be a problem here in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and you can't fault people for doing it. Some of it has become to the point where if you've got substantial financial backing on your part and you can, work out a deal with a team owner, that has become a huge thing. I can remember when my brother was racing sprint cars back in the early 2000s and up through the 2010s, a lot of guys got rides just because they were talented or because they were well liked. And not saying that still doesn't exist, because it does, but those are definitely few and far between compared to what they used to be. And, tip of the cap to guys that on a local level can excel and find themselves in a great situation in terms of picking up a ride from somewhere that, it's a cutthroat deal. Everybody's out to try to get, advance their own career and come out on top, and, there's not enough space at the table for everybody. So it's definitely a rough deal.
Getting back to talking about racing, is there any race that sticks in your mind that you're like, man, I wish I could redo that? Doesn't necessarily mean you got to win the race, but just one race that stands out to you where it's like, if I had to redo it, that would have went a lot different.
Well, I've got about 3 of them. I'll keep it as condensed as I can. My rookie year, I was at Fremont, and I was fortunate enough, I can't remember what the inversion was, but I ended up starting on the pole. I started out inside my buddy Dan McCarron, and Rich Farmer was still promoting Fremont Speedway the first time at that time, and they had a deal where if you took I I think they offered you, I can't remember what it was. If you went to the tail and won, I think you got $2,500 or $3,000 or something like that. And, you know, at that time, we're still only racing for $700, something like that. And I looked at Dad and I said, do you want me to do that? And he goes, absolutely not. I'm like, good, I'm glad we're on the same page. But I led about 24 laps and about 7/8 of that race and got passed by Steve Rando by about a nose wing coming to the stripe. And I got into 3 kind of low because I knew John Ivy was glued to me. And, you know, at that time, John was the guy. You know, you were trying to beat John Ivy and Bobby Clark and Paul Weaver. They were the big 3, if you will. And I got into 3 kind of low and kind of slow. And John clipped me getting in. You know, I'm not mad at John. I mean, good God, it's been 10 years now. And I kind of washed up, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. We'll be all right. And, you know, to Steve's credit, he channeled his inner Sheldon Jack Haudenschild out there on the outside line and got by me coming to the stripe. That's one of them. A couple years later, I believe it was 2016. It was in May at Attica. I started on the front row of a 305 race, and the cushion was about 3/4 of the way down the racetrack all the way around, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience at that point. And, dude, I was like wild, man. I mean, I had that thing tied to the board. I wasn't lifting until I saw God. And I got into 3, and if the cushion was in the middle of the racetrack, I was probably 2 grooves above it getting in. And it bit me and turned me around and ended up spun out with about a literal half a racetrack lead with about 10 to go. And that one stung for a long time. I think my buddy Jordan Ryan actually ended up winning that race. But that one stung. And I had a 360 race last year at Lima. I took rubber, and I was running second to Devin Dobie, and I had a steering gear go out. They had a restart with 2 to go, and I was glued to Devin, about to go by him before the caution come out. And going into 1 on the restart, the steering gear went, and I had to turn left like 3 times to get back to the bottom. And I'm not saying I'd have drove by. Devin wasn't going to make it easy. He's got plenty of experience. But I have a feeling that if the gear wouldn't have went out, we might have been right there. But I can't blame that one on me. Maybe I can, because it probably should have come out and got rebuilt. But don't worry, it went to CSI last summer and it got rebuilt, and that's what's in the car now. So
it's funny you bring up that last race, because I was watching that. I don't know, probably a half hour, 45 minutes before you and I started chatting, and you were on the move. I didn't realize that's what happened, but now it makes sense. And that would have been a hell of a finish, that's for sure.
Well, you know, it's so hard when I don't care if you're racing wherever you're at. If it takes rubber, it's damn near impossible to pass anybody. And I was so good that it was like that Speed Week show at Lima where it was the Sandstorm special, where guys were running through the infield. I felt like I could put my left side tires almost inside the buried infield tires and go places. And I caught Devin in lap traffic. I was just about to go by him, and he saw me at the last second and moved down, and I caught the infield tire and roosted a pretty big wheelie going down the backstretch. And I think that was what maybe gave up the ghost finally on it, because the caution come out like less than a lap later.
Yeah.
But Devin's my buddy. I was more than happy to see him win. We all know what happened in 2023 with Devin at Lima. So I was definitely grinning ear to ear that if I could win it, at least it was Devin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. We're going to do some lightning round questions here before I let you go. So I've got 10 questions. Try and give me some quick answers. Let's see what you got.
All right, hit me.
Question number 1, celebrity crush growing up.
Growing up or now?
I mean, it's up to you.
Well, I don't know if I really had one growing up, but my girlfriend's probably not going to be too happy, but I'm going to go with Sabrina Carpenter right now.
Favorite cartoon?
Oh, man, the OG, Scooby-Doo, man. That was my stuff.
All right. Do you have a favorite pro wrestler?
Favorite pro wrestler? I'm not much of a wrestling guy, but I'm probably going to have to go with Macho Man Randy Savage, because there's a guy that comes to the Browns game dressed up like him.
Yes, I like it. I like it. I like it. Do you have a favorite song?
A favorite song, man, that fluctuates pretty hard. All time, I'm probably going to have to go. Oh man, you would ask me this. Can we come back to that one at the end? I got to think about that.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Do you have a favorite movie?
Favorite movie? probably going to get a lot of shade for this because it's so dull, but it's hilarious. Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay, all right. Favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot was found last July. I went to Destin, Florida. I actually stayed in Navarre Beach, but beautiful area. Loved it.
It is. Very nice area. Something only few people know about you.
Man, that's tough. I feel like I'm a pretty open book on the internet. Man, probably this one. I'm probably going to incriminate myself, but I don't care. When I was a senior I was a sophomore. I'm sorry, swimming in high school. I actually bleached my hair blonde for a district event. Not one of my proudest moments, but that picture is somewhere on the internet if someone was to locate it.
Hopefully that shows up soon.
Hopefully it stays where it is.
If you could own one car, you come home from work, you pull in the driveway, you hit the garage door opener, the garage door opens, and you got a car sitting in there. What is it?
Oh man, all budget aside, it would probably have to be a red Ferrari. Call me basic if you want, but they just look tough.
All right. Do you have a go-to meal?
A go-to meal, man. Are we talking like a cooked meal, or are we talking like a bought meal?
Whatever is something that if somebody came up to you and said, "What would you like to eat?" Whether it was to go pick it up or have something homemade, what would be your go-to?
I'm a big steak guy, so I'd probably have to hit up. Last night, I actually did go to a steakhouse last night up here in Sandusky, but Texas Roadhouse, Longhorn, all good options. A big steak guy.
Nice. Funniest story that you've got from either the track or the shop or heading to one or the either?
So my buddy Josh Greenwood, he works for Jared Horseman on his crew. When we were down in Tennessee racing with the USCS, back when they had a USCS GLSS kind of merger event in, I believe it was 2023, there was a guy that came to we were doing maintenance in the hotel parking lot Saturday morning before the races, and he wanted to know if he could borrow a Sawzall. So he came over and borrowed our Sawzall because he had to cut his spare tire off of his wheel because the bead was stuck, so he could put his spare tire on so he could drive home, okay? Had a state high patrolman escorting him and everything, trying to help him out. So we go to the races later that night, and my buddy Josh starts telling me the same story about some dude that showed up to them, and he rolls into the gas station, gets out of the back of a cop car and looks at Josh and Jared and goes, "Bet you never seen anything like that, huh?" And it was just hilarious that they ran into the same dude 8 hours from home and had to tell us about it.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Small world.
Yeah, indeed, it is a small world.
All right, going back, if you got it now, favorite song.
Oh, favorite song. Probably going to catch a lot of hate because I'm a dirt track guy, and dirt track guys aren't supposed to be fans of rap. But I'm going to go with a lot of things Drake on that. I can't really narrow it down to one, but Drake is probably my favorite artist. So most of the tracks that he's made, I'm going to have to say are in my list.
All right. Very good. So a couple more things. They're not in the lightning round questions, but when you're not out on a lake, when you're not fishing or you're not hunting, where are you trying to go hang out when you're at Lake Erie?
Oh man, so probably a couple different places. I've got a buddy of mine whose cousin has an all-out, decked-out Cleveland Browns themed basement. Like I'm talking, he's got all the collectibles, all the signed stuff, the paint job, everything. It is a cool joint. So that's my hangout on Sundays. Go watch the Browns. Take a chance on my mental health. But usually when that gets over with, we play some cards. I'm a big card guy. So either that or I won't lie, I do enjoy an occasional trip to the casino. But I don't like being hot. So usually the most of my summer is spent indoors. Either I've got a PS5, so here lately I've been on a college football kick, so I'll roll that out. But that's usually my go-tos, I'd say. I'm not opposed to going and getting a nice dinner when it cools off about this time of night. But that's usually my go-to.
Do you have either in Sandusky or out on one of the islands, do you have a favorite restaurant on any of those spots?
So last night I went to one of my favorite places. It's a steakhouse over by Vermilion. It's called Angry Bull. And I'm a big fan. It's kind of hard on the wallet, so I don't go all the time. But every once in a while, I get a hankering for it. That's probably my go-to spot when I want something really good.
All right. And last thing for you, thoughts on our Cleveland Browns draft class?
Oh, man. I don't know how many times I've been asked this question since Saturday and Sunday both. But I wasn't opposed to the trade back. I mean, obviously I'm a diehard Ohio State guy, so picking a Michigan grad, Mason Graham, was kind of hard to swallow for me. But you know what? He's going to be a great addition to the defensive line to pair with our guy Myles Garrett after we paid him a lucrative amount of money to stay here. Honestly, I was pretty happy with most of the draft. The Dylan Gabriel pick in the third round kind of threw me through a loop because I felt like we drafted a Hawaiian left-handed baker that likes playing in warm weather, that debatably might have about as good of an arm as me. So hopefully it pans out. No shade at Dylan Gabriel. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but it just was kind of a head scratcher for me. Obviously the biggest debated pick was the Shedeur Sanders pick, and only using a fifth-round pick I'm okay with. If they'd have picked him with anything higher, like I put on Facebook, I probably would have thrown my toaster in a bathtub at the end of the night. But I'll roll with it. Hopefully it works out, and if it doesn't work out, hey, you know what? We can move on. It's not like we drafted Johnny Football in the first round again. So.
Well, it will definitely be seen. I'm with you on a lot of that stuff. We really kind of stand in the same spot. I'm still not sure about Shedeur, but we'll find out. I mean, I'm sure they're confident he can play, but obviously a lot of teams passed on him, so that'll be interesting to see how it shakes out for our Browns in 2025.
I mean, hey, we got the corpse of Joe Flacco out there, man. He's gonna throw for 336, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's gonna be exciting to watch. So you heard this first. Draft Jerry Jeudy as your wide receiver 1.
Yeah, well, I think he's gonna put up some points. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know if I would pick him first. But he's gonna
probably not the first. Probably not the first round. Maybe the second. But either way, I think you should get your hands on him if you can.
All right, wrapping this up, Mr. Griffith, where can everybody follow you on social media? Do you have sponsors you'd like to thank, and any merchandise available?
So yeah, my Twitter handle, which everybody I'm sure has found by now, because I usually have kind of the flamboyant takes on the internet that are subject to criticism. My Twitter handle is @LukeGriffith11. Feel free to drop me a follow, shoot me a message, whatever. We can chat. I'm just a normal guy. Facebook, same thing, nothing crazy there. I do have some sponsors I'd like to thank. Jim and Brock Mays. I don't know if you remember Brock Mays from back in the day. Brock used to drive the blue and white 11B. I believe he still holds the track record at the Atomic Speedway for 410, believe it or not. But they've been close family friends of ours for a long time. If it wasn't for Jim in particular, I would have never even sat in a race car. So huge supporters of mine specifically. Same thing with my Uncle Gary. He's helped us out. My dad and my mom both have been huge. All my family, really. My brother-in-law, my sister, my girlfriend Marissa has been there for the whole thing from the start. She's always there for me, even when it seems like nobody else is, so I really appreciate her. In terms of sponsors, Ken Grieber with Grieber Racing Components has helped us out a ton in recent years. Timmy Sisson with TNT Fabrication. Rob Butts and Lynette Lawless Butts. I'd like to also give my condolences to Lynette. Her father, Fred Wolf, passed away about a month ago now, maybe a little bit longer. Just a great guy. He was always a supporter of mine as well. Kyle Grothwell with Grothwell LLC Custom Vehicles came on board last year. We actually ran a pavement race with the must-see sprints at the Sandusky Speedway. And he's a big pavement fan, so he came on board with the Phil Capitais 12 and stayed on board with us for this season. So I'd like to give a thank you to him as well. Bart Rader at Banshee Graphics, like I mentioned earlier. Gressman Power Sports has helped us with our engine program in the recent years. So big thank you to them. And, everybody who's supported me in the past, Herman Sparker Concrete, Jeff Ward, who owns the 33W. When my brother drove for him, he was helping us out as well. So I'd like to say thank you to him. Just too many people to thank specifically. But I'm always grateful to everyone who has helped us out over the course of the years, because it truly did not go unnoticed.
Well, Mr. Griffith, I appreciate you jumping on. Looking forward to seeing you at the track hopefully this season, and good luck in 2025.
Well, hey, thank you, sir. Oh, and I'd like to give a shout-out to my buddy Nate Spieth at In Season Media. He's been huge with me. He's helped me with your race day graphics, race car drivers. If you're listening, hit him up. He'll definitely get you pointed in the right direction. So, but thank you for having me, Josh. I really do appreciate it. I'm looking forward to. Hey, if you're gonna be at Eldora on Saturday? I have tickets, so we can. We'll have to get a Eldora Speedway selfie, and maybe I'll get you a toilet water on me.
I'll never turn those down. So that sounds like a plan. Luke Griffith, driver of the 11G sprint car. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, this is Josh with the Dirt Court Jesters podcast, and we hope to see you at the track.